So, to continue where we left off in the last video, I'm going to explain something which I didn't mention, article locking. I had mentioned it a bit in the first video, but it's important to know about it. Sometimes you might go into an article at the moment. Let me see if I can find one. Here, in fact, there's more than one. There are three here, which has this little padlock. Now, what's that? That is to show you that this article was locked. Now, the idea here is that if two people are working on the same article, and one saves and the other saves 5 minutes after, there is a risk that they will overwrite each other's work. Now, for that not to happen, Joomla will lock an article for you. Now, this article is locked by me, so if another user tries to edit it, he will not be allowed. Now, the system works quite well. The problem with this system is that, for example, if you have articles open and you're editing them, and the phone rings and you have to stop, and you leave your browser open, those articles will remain locked. So somebody else who comes into the website to unlock, to edit them, might think that the actual user who locked them is still using them, when in fact they will not be using them. So in that case, there is a way how to go around it. You can basically click on the configuration here, system actually, and do a global check-in. Now, a global check-in, in fact, there are, look, 3 items in the content and 10 modules which are at the moment locked. I can select both of them and simply click check-in. But obviously here you have to be careful, because if the user, the admin, is really editing them, you could actually overwrite each other, as explained. So, you have to sort of either check with the person to make sure or risk it. But obviously, it could happen that you both are editing at the same time. So this is something that you should watch out for. So basically, about content, I think I have covered the most important things: how to add articles and how to add categories. So you can add as many articles as you like, or change existing content. As I explained, you can simply go to articles, select an article, and edit it away as you like. Now, modules. So what are modules? I'll go back to the website here, and as you can see, like I said before, a lot of things which are not the content, like on this screen, for example, everything else besides what's showing from here to here is a module, which you have control over. Now, modules can contain a lot of things. They can contain, for example, images. They can contain menus. You can decide, you have the power to decide what you need them to contain, as well as when they should appear. For example, in this website, if you go to the home page, as you can see, the home page is very different from the other pages, which means there's a lot of modules, like, for example, this one here, which just popped up, which only appear in the home page. So somewhere we are telling the website not to show this module when the user presses this menu item, for example. Now, so extensions, modules, and here you can see all the modules we have. Again, module can be published or unpublished, just as for articles. It has a position, I'll explain. It has a type. It has also where it appears, on which pages it appears. For example, this one appears in all pages. The access, if it's public or not, the language, in case the site is multilingual, and the article, the module ID, which is created for you automatically. Again, as for the articles, you've got a lot of search tools here, and you can select, filter out, and look at only the ones that you want to see. I doubt it you will use it much, but sometimes it's a good idea, because especially of the position. Why? Because, as I said, modules have positions. For example, in this website, if we go back to the home page, there is a header here, a logo side, a menu side, a social media. Obviously, the developer would have created these positions when he designed the site and given them names. You can actually if you want to get deeper into the subject, ask the developer how your site is designed and which module goes where. But for example, to give you an example, in this case, I have a module position called anim. This is obviously the big slideshow that you're seeing here, and inside it there is a module called homepage slider. I will not get into it at this point, but I'll show you a normal module. A lot of the modules in this site, except for 1, 2, 3, and 4, in fact, are custom. Custom means a module which is like an article, a module that contains text. For example, if I had to click on, let's say, for example, call out 3, this one, and here you can see one of the icons which are, this is this module. In fact, these modules here are called callout 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you place whatever you place here, just like we did for the articles in the last video, will appear in that position. Now, usually this is something which is considered a bit advanced, and some people might ask their developer to do it for them, but at least by watching this video, you know that you can change, maybe there's a typo or you want to change a link. It's exactly the same way as we did for articles. In this case, though, it has a position. Here you can select the positions. These are the positions which are available in this particular template as designed by the developer, and this module is located in callout 3, and the status you can publish or unpublish, and like the articles you can select the date when you want to publish it. A module also has a menu assignment. In this case, for example, the module will appear only on the pages selected, and the only page selected in this case is the home page. So that means that this module will appear only in the home page. If I select something else, it will also appear in that page. There's also some options here which are not that terribly important, but with what I've just explained, you should be able to at least edit modules. Now, I'll show you something else with modules. For example, another module here is the Jax logo showcase. This is on the page in this particular site. It's here at the bottom. It's this thing here, the scrolling thing, which changes color as well. Now, this is a custom module. This is an extension, as I explained in the first video. This is something that is purchased and added on to the content management system. The idea is obviously to make it do what you would like it to do. In this case, showcase our company affiliates, our company partners. So the layout here and the menus that you see will be particular only to this particular module. Like, for example, here you've got a description about the author. Again, we have the same thing as for all other modules where we want it to appear. In this case, it's just at home on the home page. And here in this particular module, we're showing as well the actual logos. Here, basically, I'm telling it that the logos are inside the logos folder. If you remember before when I explained how to use media in the last video, so basically what you would do is you go to media in the content menu up here. Let me open another window to show you. You would go, if you wanted, say, to add another logo, go to media. Here are the logos. This was I had created it myself, and you can here use upload button to upload more logos. Obviously, this requires a bit more expertise because obviously the logos have to be the same size as they are here. In this case, they are 80 pixels by 80 pixels. That's easy to find out. You can practically just save image as and check the resolution. But obviously, you need to be able to use a bit of image manipulation to get them looking all the same way. But basically, that's it. You simply upload it and the logo will appear here. So you do add files, and you can even add it here or to the media. And once it's there, it will show at the bottom here. There's also controls like item style, adding padding, opacity, etc., etc. What happens when you hover, the display type, whether you want it to be draggable by mouse, whether, etc., etc. There's a lot of things you can stay having fun with, and some custom CSS which you don't need to bother about. So that's a particular module. There's another one which is different as well. It's the mega menu. Again, here you're going to find a lot of customizable things, like for example, if the menu, how it's aligned, the orientation, etc. Where it appears, obviously the menu is going to appear on all pages. So again, here you're seeing something which is particular to this module. Another module is the animation module, which is based on Unite Revolution slider. This is a very cool module. I'll explain how to use it. Basically, this is made up of two things. It's made up of what's called the module and a component. Now I'll show you. Again, it's got menu assignment. This appears only on the home page, and some general settings, like for example, which slider is going to show. In our case, we only have one, but we would have had several. I'm going to close and show you how to change the slideshow. In this case, you would go to components. Now, the difference, so content is the articles, the actual content. Extensions, we have modules plus other things, but you can only you should only concern yourself with modules. And components are actually programs. These are extensions like modules, but in this case, they do much more fancy stuff. Like for example, the Unite Revolution slider is a very good one. Here you're seeing the only slider that we have, which is called main slider. You've got settings, edit slides, export, etc. We're going to go to first to settings. Now, I can't really explain all of this. There's a lot to explain. But just to give you an idea, this is the screen that controls our slider on the front page of this website, meaning it's controlling this one here. Now, there's things like how it loops, the position, the appearance, navigation. These would change the whole slider, all the slides in the slider. So usually you probably don't need to mess around with them. What you might need to do is edit the slides. I clicked on edit slides, and in this case our slider is made up of 6 different slides. You can even delete, duplicate, or copy and move. The order here you're seeing them is the order in which they appear if from the slider settings it was set to appear one by one. I think in this case, for example, I had set it up to be random, so that when you go into the website, not always the same slide appears. If you click on edit a slide, here again there's 100 settings, but most of them are pretty self-explanatory. Here you've got a title, whether it's published or not. The transition from one slide to the other for this particular slide is a fade. In this case, they are all fade. You can even mess around with delays and rotation. Whether it has a link, whether when you click on it, it takes you to somewhere else. And in this case, it does have a link. And how did I get the link? Basically, I went on the website and copied it and pasted it from my browser. Link target, well, it will open. These you don't need to bother. The image itself, so if you want to change the image, you would go change image and upload the image. These you can leave as is, and the actual text which is appearing over the image. Now, this works with layering. Okay, so in this case, we've got the background, which is the first layer, and then we've got these layers here, which you can see here, including the Learn More button. Over here, you can see what time the layer appears. In this case, they all appear at 0 time at the beginning and end after 9 seconds. You've also, each layer is made up of content, some text. In this case, you can choose any of these examples here, and the text will appear like that. The ones you're seeing in this particular website were created by me specifically for this website. There's also alignment and more animation things that you can do, but most likely the thing you'll need to do most is simply maybe change the text or change the image. Now, the size of the image itself has to be uh, close to the images that we have. It doesn't have to be precise, but ideally it would be very close, if not exactly the same. Now, how will you know what the size of this image? Now, best thing to do that is go into your media section, find the images. In this case, I think, in fact, in this case, I think there's no access to them because they're direct. But basically, what we need to do is grab a large image which is 1200 pixels wide. In this case, they are 1200 pixels wide. You can even make them a bit bigger or a bit smaller, but be careful of the size. 1200 pixels is already quite a big size. Today's huge monitors, people are using big monitors. 1200 is maybe a bit small. However, even if they are a bit small, the size, if you make them, for example, 1900 pixels, is going to become something like 300K, which is definitely going to slow down your website. So ideally, you wouldn't use images larger than 1200K. And try to find, obviously, images that match with the site and that keep the aspect ratio, meaning the ratio between the width and the height of the image, close to the ones we have there. If you don't, the image is going to look out of place. In this case, in this slide, we even have a button. In fact, that's by doing insert button like that, and it creates this code for you here. And you can simply type the words that you want. This is obviously more intended for someone. This part of this video is more intended for someone who is more experienced and can use image manipulation software, for example, like Photoshop. Once you're done, you update the slide, and you can go back to the slide list or slider settings, or go to inside Joomla and do somewhere else. In this particular site, the components that are here are not really useful because they're not used, but in other sites they might be. For example, this is what you're seeing here, JCE editor. That is the editor that you use when you edit articles and modules. The configuration would have been done by the developer, so you don't really need to worry about it. Another important item is creating and managing users. Now, if you click manage, in this case, there are 2 users, and you can create as many as you like. Obviously, at this point, if you had a registration system on your website through which people can sort of become members and register, here you would also see these users. They would not obviously be super users. A super user basically has access to absolutely everything. So in that case, they would be, for example, simply registered users. But here you can create your own, perhaps for a colleague. You just enter the details here. You assign a user group, and you assign which languages are going to use, which editor. For example, in this case, the best one we have is JCE, the help site and the time zone. And you save, and that becomes a new user who can then log into the website. That's all for this video. Thank you.